Hi, my name is Melody Payne. Thank you so much for joining us for this chat with Ian Belloso. Ian, take a second to introduce yourself to us, and then I want to talk a little bit about what OBS is, or Open Broadcaster Software, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, just give us a really quick overview of what that is and how it can benefit our studios. And then I have a few more questions. We'll just run down our list together, but let's start with tell us a little bit about yourself today.
Sure, yeah. So you got my name right. My name is Ian Belloso, and I am the owner of Piano Belloso, and that's my music studio. But it's also starting to become a teacher consulting business. So thus the technology component. So so I'm sort of doing a rebranding this year, a little bit of a pivot. But I am a piano teacher. That's what I do. I actually teach using the Simply Music method. I live in the Southern California area, and so I had and have a studio that's mostly locally based there, just outside of LA. And then I've been teaching online. I taught a few students online, before the pandemic, but as soon as lockdown started here in California last March, I believe, I went fully online, and I intend to stay that way just for my own personal reasons, even post-pandemic.
Same here. Same here. I do miss the in-person interaction with my students.
Of course, of
But
course.
for now, being able to have accomplished an entire year with everyone online, we're nearing a year and a half actually.
Right.
It was a phenomenal change of pace. And I'm really excited about what you're about to teach us about because for us piano teachers who are teaching online, this is going to further enhance our online setups and help us to be able to do even more things with our students online that we might not have been able to do before. So, today we're talking about open broadcaster software. What is that exactly? And how do you use it in your studio?
So you mentioned before, Open Broadcast Software is what OBS stands for. And if you were to go to the website, which I'm sure you'll provide a link to later,
Mhm.
um, you would see that it's basically an application for video recording and live streaming. So live streaming is a big thing this past year, especially a lot of people on YouTube. But it's not just, okay, I'm going to record the video and then edit it in iMovie or something, and then I'm going to upload it. It's okay, we're going live, right? And that's a whole different animal. So how do you do things that you could do in Final Cut Pro or iMovie to arrange the scenes? Like right now, you're seeing my box around me. I've got a logo. How do I add those things and then also change them, live? Well, that's what OBS is for, and I would just say, if somebody asked me what it is, I would tell them that that's the official kind of description of it. But really, what I think of it as is it's you could say it's an alternative, and it's actually a free alternative to programs like ManyCam that do roughly the same thing.
Uh-huh.
There's another big one right now called eCam that's really good for
Mhm.
Mac, and I mean, it's super expensive actually. I just wouldn't even touch it honestly if if I was going after something because of the expense. So, piano teachers, we got to put our money in certain places, and we have our budget, and so
Mhm.
for a lot of people, OBS, I mean, it's free, but that doesn't mean that it's small or not able to do a lot. It's able to do in some ways much more than even some of these paid programs.
That sounds like a pretty powerful software. Is it something that you would download onto your computer, or is that something that you use? Is it web based or both?
No, it is an application or program that you would download onto your computer. It's cross-platform, which means it's going to work on your Mac, it's going to work on your Windows PC, and it even works on Linux. If you have a Linux computer, I don't know anyone that does that, but it won't work on something like a Chromebook, for instance,
Okay.
which it isn't the same. It's just the hardware is not the same. It's not set up for that situation. So Chromebooks work okay for sort of web-based things.
Mhm.
This is not a web-based software. Now there are live streaming web-based programs now. So if you don't want a program like OBS downloaded on your computer, or you do have Google Chrome or something and you want to do some of the things that we're going to talk about today, there are alternatives as well that you can get that will allow you to do it in your browser, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but OBS, yes, it's a program.
So pretty much anyone can use it as long as you're using a Mac or a PC, but not for Chromebooks.
Correct. And
Okay.
it also does not have a mobile application. So if you're going to
Okay.
want to, if you're an iPad only teacher, this is unfortunately not going to be for you.
The next question I would like to ask, and what I would need to know is, other than a computer, which I'm on a MacBook Pro right now. So other than my MacBook Pro, if I was getting ready to set up OBS, would I need any additional special equipment, or could I just get up and running right on my computer?
It's one of the great things about it. No, you don't need anything else. Basically, you might want a camera,
Sure.
but even the built-in webcam on your computer is going to be just fine. If you're only doing face-to-face stuff, that's all you're really going to need.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I use it in just a minute, which includes that overhead cam view of the piano and things like that. So you'll need a second camera, for instance, if you're going to do that shot. But I started out using this with just two cameras, my webcam on my computer,
Mhm.
which I just used to show my face, and then I had, like you, that Logitech C920, which I mounted over my piano keys, and I would just switch between them. And so here's kind of getting into what it does compared to Zoom, for instance. If you're teaching on Zoom or any other video conference platform, and right now we're talking face to face, and I'm able to present things, in that talking head mode. But the moment that I want to show my piano, I either need to come down here and switch my video to a different camera,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Or I need to share my screen in some instances if you want to show sheet music and stuff, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, what if you want to do all that at the same time and you want to have some control over where things are? So I'll just give a quick demo of what I would do. For instance, if I want to show the keys on my piano, I just click one button and I get this view. So this is what we would call a scene. And I can't do this on Zoom. I can't get the background that's really nice. I can't get not only my piano here, but also this is a virtual MIDI keyboard that has the light up keys and stuff.
Very nice.
Um, and those are basically all separate little um, video inputs. One's from my computer, it's a software.
Mhm.
One is the overhead shot from my camera, and it's not just the whole piano. I actually cut it so that you can just see the keyboard by itself. And I can layer things like this little middle C marker here with
Mhm.
text. Um, and I got the picture of myself. You can actually see me at the piano if I'm trying to demonstrate technique. I'm
Right.
not completely lost to the student while I'm trying to show them the keyboard, right?
Absolutely. Right. This looks
So,
fantastic.
so that's definitely one view that's going to come in handy. And then another one is if I want to show sheet music,
Mhm.
right? So I use a separate program, but you could use pretty much any program on your computer that you're going to show, even just opening up a PDF. But if I want to show them that, well, okay, let's come on over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my iPad. And you can do this in Zoom, actually. I'm just going to AirPlay
Right.
it, basically. So I'm going
I
to
do
turn
a
that
lot of screen sharing through. I currently teach in Zoom, and I know you mentioned the overhead view of the camera, which I just did a tutorial on my website about how to set up that second overhead webcam. So definitely, if you're interested in setting up your OBS software like that, check out that tutorial so you can see how to get your second overhead camera set up, and then you'll be ready for OBS.
out. There you go.
Ah, there we go.
So, so yeah, now, okay, again, I don't have to share my screen and lose the view of me for the student.
Mhm.
And by the way, while I'm got this view for them, I can still see them. I can see them full screen if I want. Um,
Okay.
and I'm not having to sort of bring everything down to just what I'm trying to screen share.
Oh, that's so interesting. I really like that a lot. Oh, there you go. And now we've got
I want to show
another
the
view.
keys at the same time. I've got that. Um, and I've even got, these are all separate scenes.
Mhm.
And that's sort of the way OBS works, is that you set up scenes. So here's another analogy explanation. If I want to, if you can kind of think of like a newsroom, a live broadcast, right? So if you've ever been in a live TV show of any kind, so that could be just sort of what happens on a nightly news broadcast, or it could be like a daytime talk show. You're at an Ellen taping or something, right? If you've ever looked sort of behind you or around you at what's happening other than the show itself that's on stage, most of the time there's something called a control room. And inside of that control room are producers, there's a director, and there are many techs at different machines. And what they're doing is they're taking all of the information that's being coming to them, being fed to them through the cameras, because there's multiple cameras, and through all of the different microphones. So a microphone for the top, for the main speaker, a microphone for the guest, a microphone. These are all these different microphones.
Mhm.
So they're taking all of those feeds into the control room, and then what the director and the producers are deciding live is what are we going to actually show to the viewers. So when it actually gets piped into your cable, on your TV, you're not seeing everything that's happening like you would if you were actually at the taping and looking around. You're only seeing what they tell you, or basically what they decide you're going to see. So you're going to see this camera for a minute, and then you're going to see this other camera for a minute, and then you're not going to be able to hear this person while they're standing off stage, even though their mic is on. It's not connected.
Okay, yeah.
So that's sort of like a director type thinking, and it's just a completely different way of thinking, honestly, for a piano teacher like myself, who I'm just used to sort of directing the student and directing my hands on the keys if we're in a live lesson.
Right.
So when you're running something like OBS, now you're a director, now you're a producer, and you get to decide not only, what am I going to do to show the student this particular song or how to play this particular passage, but you're also going to be deciding how do I show that in a way that is helpful to them on their iPad, for instance, or
Hmm.
their if they're watching on their phone. I mean, like,
Right.
these are just things we deal with, right?
That's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So being, in that director mode brings up another thing that I wanted to just talk about as far as how this can actually benefit teachers online.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't think teachers, well, not everyone has realized that we've sort of entered into a different mode with online teaching. I sort of think of it like, what we're really offering students now is interactive educational programming. I mean, you're not competing with the piano teacher down the street.
No.
You're competing with Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
when students get online, do I go to YouTube? Do I go and watch something on Sesame Street? Do I go and watch, whatever programming they're going to go to get their education? It's sort of entertainment and education,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So OBS, in my mind, it gives teachers that ability to actually, level up the way that they teach and rethink it in a way that is pretty exciting. So, for instance, I can bring in, you know, actual music. I can pipe it through my audio. OBS does have a way of doing that, but that's sort of a separate thing I'll have to get to another time. And but being able to shape that picture gives you a lot more control over what's actually going to help the student, and also it gives you the ability to brand and to set up the scene in a way that looks professional and isn't just you're no longer just a Zoom teacher when you're doing that.
Well, I think the branding part is fascinating me because when I go back and edit this video in Final Cut Pro, like we talked about a few minutes ago, I will put my branding on the bottom of the screen. But seeing you live, your branding is already up there, and I think that's fantastic. It really, really is. So there are so many things that we could do with OBS, and I'm just really excited about learning more about it. We've talked a little bit about how it can benefit teachers who teach online. And I know we have a lot of teachers who are not currently teaching online. Are there any benefits to checking out OBS for teachers who teach in person?
Yeah, so I think there are. And I think a lot of teachers are going to be in a hybrid situation anyway, coming up this next year. So
Mm.
you'll have some students that are they're wanting to connect with you online still, but you're starting to teach in person again, right?
Right.
So I mean that's really great. I mean you don't have to have OBS to do this, but again, it gives you more control. And so if you want to set up a camera over your piano or in your room or both,
Right.
then you can set up OBS on your computer, set it off to the side, and you've got those camera feeds. You might have both of them running at the same time in just one scene,
Mhm.
or you might be switching to it, yourself live if you want to really control that. But then you go and you teach your students at the piano that are there live, and you do what you normally do, and you've got that recording feeding the online students at the same time.
Oh,
So
interesting. So
again,
we're teaching
it's like,
group lessons
oh
and
yeah,
That would be fantastic. I was thinking when you said hybrid lessons, I was thinking for a single student, a mixture of in person and online back and forth as convenient or
Oh
necessary.
yeah, true. And of course there's that too. But yeah,
You were
simultaneous.
referring to a group of students simultaneously, some live and some online.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that idea so much.
OBS, one of the good things about it, and one of the differentiating factors between OBS and Manycam that I'll say is it's very customizable.
Mm.
So people are using it in ways that are probably not intended by the original designers
Okay.
because you can do so many things with it. But so for instance, OBS was, like I said, is designed for live streaming. Okay, I can record my video, which is sort of an added benefit,
Okay.
uh, and in a way that makes it a little bit like iMovie in some respects. You can record whatever's happening on screen. Um, however, live streaming is, like I said earlier, is a different animal, right? So that's what it was built for. And so the people that adopted it first were these live streaming gamers. They've been doing it for a while. If you go onto Twitch TV, you're going to see a lot of those. Oh, I'm live streaming this game that I'm playing, and I'm talking about it, and you'll see the little chat window and all that stuff. Well, they're using OBS to accomplish all of that. So
Okay.
it's actually set up for that type of situation where you're not only connecting your camera and your audio feed or whatever you want, but it's being streamed directly to Twitch, directly to YouTube, directly to wherever. Well, as a piano teacher, I don't need to do that. I mean, you could obviously that's an option to you now, but I'm not trying to live stream it to YouTube. I'm trying to send it out through Zoom or through I use Rock Out Loud Live too,
Mhm. Yeah.
to my students. Right? There's a
Right.
direct channel there, a direct feed.
So you
Uh,
do couple that with another type of software such as Zoom or Roll or something like that.
correct. Right.
Okay. All right.
Right, because otherwise, OBS, like I said, it's set up to directly connect to some of those other
Uh-huh.
services for
Right.
live streaming. But
Uh-huh.
unless you're using that with your students for some reason, which I do, like I have a live stream concert instead of a recital.
Very
And at that time, yes, I use OBS as intended, and I live stream that guy right out to YouTube. But if you're just trying to teach a student, yeah, you want that additional piece of software. You use something called a virtual camera, and that basically allows Zoom to see your camera feed from OBS. Now, what it won't see, or rather hear, is your audio feed unless you set it up correctly. And
Oh.
that's what I was saying. It's sort of a different animal. I'm developing a course on this actually,
Oh, interesting.
because well, a course and coaching program because I've just started to realize over the past few months that like this is like going. You remember in high school we had AV class and AV club. That's what we're dealing with here. I mean, this is all the stuff that I learned at my church.
Uh-huh.
Running the services. I had a really high tech church, and so the youth program we were using projections and lots of speakers and a big live mixing board, and so I learned to be what you would call a live audio engineer, and then I learned how to be an audio engineer in the studio. And along the way, I also learned about how video connects with that, both for those live services at the church and then later online. But not every teacher has gone through all those experiences. And so when we're talking about, okay, why can't I hear my student or why can't the student hear me?
Mhm.
Those are audio problems. OBS might have nothing to do with that. And or for that matter, Zoom, might have nothing to do with that.
And then there would
So,
be teachers like me going, "Help. Please
right,
help. I
exactly,
don't know what to do,"
exactly.
because if I had never used it before and if the audio didn't just connect automatically like it was supposed to, then I really wouldn't know what to do because I wouldn't have the troubleshooting experience or the AV background of being able to understand how all the parts were working together to create
Mhm.
exactly what we wanted. So, yeah, definitely a troubleshooting session would be required for me for sure. You've mentioned setting up scenes.
Right.
And it sounds like that might be one of your favorite features of OBS is being able to control what you have on the screen and manipulate it and make it work perfectly for each student during each moment of the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to actually control that, rather than just letting the layout of Zoom that has been predetermined by the company that designed this for for people in meetings, like
Right. Not for me.
I don't, yeah, I don't really care about that for my students. We're not having just a meeting.
Right.
Face-to-face chat is great. That's what we're doing right now, and we need to
Right.
do that still, but that's only one aspect of what we do as piano teachers, right?
Interesting.
So that flexibility that it gives me to set up those different scenes, and then I just one touch of a button, and there I am. We're in the new scene, and students can interact that way.
That's what I wanted to ask about was is it complicated to set up a scene and then is it complicated to switch from scene to scene to scene to scene
Not
during
at all.
the lesson? Do you have
So
to program those things to correspond with certain keys on your keyboard, or do you just push your arrow key and it goes to the next scene? How does that tell us a little bit more about how that works?
okay, so how about I do a little demonstration here?
Sure. And yeah, that would be awesome.
And what I'm going to be doing right now is actually using a second instance of OBS, which
OBS
sort of,
within OBS. Oh boy.
yeah, we're getting inception here. No, essentially, okay, so what will happen is if I try just like right now on Zoom, if I share my screen, share my desktop, you're going to see like that little infinite tunnel.
Okay.
So one way I'm going to get around that is just showing you sort of a clean instant of OBS. And
That
let me
makes
do
sense.
this
Okay.
quick. Let's minimize
So then this
this.
instance would be more what if I was in a piano lesson with you right now, this would be what I would see as your student.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to just switch to my desktop view here,
Okay.
and I just minimize use. So just tell me if anything looks a little off. So you
All right.
should be seeing me still kind of floating, the floating head. And
Yes.
then what you're seeing right now is my main desktop. And what you're looking at right now is OBS. So this whole window here is OBS. And
Okay.
behind here, by the way, is just, this is my desktop. And you can kind of see there's that virtual keyboard I was talking about.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So these are separate things. A lot of teachers know about a um, couple other programs like Cordy is another one. This one's called Mandiculus,
Hmm.
and the third one that a lot of people know about is Classroom Maestro. So they're
Yes.
all the same thing. It's just a way to show those light up keys. So what you're looking at right now, this is what I would call my opening scene. But really, if you just look over here on the left side, everything that's on the left side here are scenes.
Oh,
And so you can see that I've got, just a bunch of different stuff. And the nomenclature of this is completely up to you. You could call this scene one, scene two, scene three, etc.
uh-huh.
I just give them these names to sort of indicate to myself, what's going on. So
Okay.
when students log in, a lot of the time I'm not ready to teach, or maybe I'm setting up. And so I'll put them on this screen here. And, it says now playing, and that's because I usually have some music playing in the background, and I can bring that right in.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay. So you can
yeah,
set it up. For example, if you were going to be introducing a new piece to that student in the lesson, you could have that playing to set up
yeah,
the lesson. Oh, that's fantastic.
absolutely. So, and then when I'm getting ready and I'm like, okay, attention, let's get ready, I switch over to this next scene, which just says start. Now you saw I just clicked on that, which you can absolutely do. That's the easiest way to just interact with this. Is
Okay.
everything's clickable. I can also right click on it. I could duplicate this scene. I could add a new scene. I could rename it. So there's all these, sort of more intuitive things that you can do with it, are just really accessible.
Yeah.
Um, so I turn this on. Everybody sort of looks, oh, okay, the lesson is starting, right?
Ah, okay.
And then I can switch on over to my face cam. Now, right now, the face cam you're seeing is actually my laptop face cam, so it's not as high def as my Logitech that's over here on the right that we were seeing before, or over there rather. So, and that's just because I can't show both cameras in two programs. It won't let me do that. But you don't teachers won't have to worry about this. But anyway, so yeah, you got your face cam, and then if I want to switch over to the keys, I have this other scene to do that you saw earlier. So you set up your scenes, and you don't have to have this many scenes. I do that because as I started to play with OBS, I just figured out lots of other ways to customize it for myself, and so I've got all these things that I can do with it. I
Mhm.
don't use them all the time. They're for specific instances.
Yeah.
And so, but you can see some, okay, iPad only. If I just want to show my iPad, I just want
Okay.
to set that up, okay,
Okay.
so,
So you can't, so you don't have to do lots of different things on a scene. You could just do one thing and that's your
right.
scene. Okay. All right.
Absolutely. So, and you're going to spend the most time in that face cam scene or in that scene with the piano.
Hmm.
But another piano one, for instance, I'll just switch back to my view here, is so I've got this 88 keys view,
Yeah.
and that's what I was showing earlier. But
Right.
I also have a zoomed view. So if I'm working with younger students or just not using the entire piano, we want to see the keys a little closer. I've
Uh-huh.
got it kind of cropped in, and that's helpful at times, right?
So do you use
So
the same webcam for both of those scenes, and then you're able to tell OBS how much you want to zoom in and then set that for the scene, or are you using different cameras for each one of those overhead scenes?
so it's just all the same camera.
Okay, wow, that's really versatile.
I'll demonstrate that real quick. Let me go
Okay.
ahead and go back to desktop. And this time you're actually seeing yourself. Let me get that out of here. So, but I just it's showing my desktop, right? Whatever's
Right,
on there.
right.
Um, and I'm not doing that through Zoom. That was through OBS. And so
Okay,
I didn't have to switch anything in Zoom. In fact, I can sort of put Zoom away and just use it as a way to see my students if I want to, and
okay.
just do everything through OBS.
Uh-huh.
So, so let's just use this face cam only version. If I say, okay, look at that light in the background, isn't that bright? I don't want to see that.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to click on this little box, which is the camera scene, and you can see these little tabs show up at the bottom and on the sides. They're
Right.
in red, and I can just click and drag that with the on my I'm on a PC. If I hold down the Alt key, or if you hold down the Option key on a Mac and you click and drag that, it's going to crop it. So now you can see that green line moving down,
Yeah.
and I can just say, okay, I don't want to see that light. It's too bright. All I need to see is my face, and so I can grab the sides. I can grab, you know, whatever I want and crop it to my liking.
Oh, look at
Now
that.
you,
That's fantastic.
and now I'm revealing there's actually another scene, or sorry, another display behind the camera in this scene. So
Mhm.
you look down in the bottom left corner here where it says sources. This is basically what's inside of the scene. So I have a source that says webcam,
Mhm.
and that's what you're seeing, my face on. But there's this other one that says BG scenes. That's the background that you're seeing.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I just have a picture there. There's just, whatever picture you want, you can set that up, and exactly the same as what I did with my face. I mean, I can crop that. I can switch it out to a different picture.
Mhm.
I can apply effects to it, like blur, for instance. There's lots of different things you can do with this, just like you
Okay.
could in, like you said, Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've got another little logo sitting up there. And you can rearrange these. So for instance, if I move the logo down, it's like a layer. So if I get it down to the layer behind the background scene, which I'll do now, well, you're not going to see it. It's
Okay.
behind the
Right.
background, right?
So when
So
you're talking about layers, you mean like from the back to the front?
now it's like we're in Canva, and we're
Right.
we're
Yeah.
we're, we're trying to set up all of our pictures so that you can see all of them and they're not hiding behind, the background picture or whatever.
Exactly.
So it works very similarly. If you've done any graphics, sort of graphics editing, a lot of those things that you're used to are going to cross over to this, which is a good thing because
That is a good thing.
you don't want to have to relearn everything.
For sure.
What I'm trying to display to just demonstrate here is that it actually is pretty straightforward. Obviously, today we don't have enough time to get into a full tutorial, but that is one of the things I'm going to provide. And in the meantime, when we get done with the call today, I'm going to provide you a link to what I consider one of the better tutorials for music teachers. And it's just like in 5 minutes, this guy named Jason, I'll give you his info later, but he goes through how to set up OBS from scratch as a teacher, and it includes iPad mirroring. It includes how do you set up your camera, what scenes do you actually need. You
Mhm.
don't need all this extra stuff that I have. You could just set up like 3 or 4 scenes,
Mhm.
and that might be good enough for you. And then
That
how do you connect it to Zoom, which is the other component.
that is
All the
definitely a component that would be incredibly important. How to connect it to what we're currently using for online piano lessons.
So the
Absolutely.
way that we're doing that, like I said, is a virtual camera.
Mhm.
If you look down in the bottom right now, you'll see these little things over here. So start streaming. Well, I'm not streaming it, right? But I could start recording it if I wanted to record what I'm doing and maybe send that to another student later, or just have it, for their lesson, um, their lesson information
But another
to
fantastic
view.
use that you can do a quick recording and then save it
Yeah,
and use it later. Hmm.
exactly. And then right underneath that, start virtual camera. So This is my demo scene, but I actually have this turned on in my actual OBS right now.
Mhm.
And everything that you're seeing is because I have that virtual camera turned on. And then when I go into the zoom settings, instead of choosing my Logitech camera, whatever that
Mhm.
is, I would choose the camera that says OBS virtual cam. And when you click on that, it just everything you're doing in OBS is going to show up right in Zoom.
That sounds so easy.
It's not bad at all.
I like easy. You remember those commercials that had the easy button on it? I like to press the easy button. That sounds fantastic. So it really is easy when you do have multiple cameras in your and you're teaching in Zoom to switch from one to the other. You just go to the little camera settings and let's see it the where it says stop video and click the little arrow right beside it, and then you have a list of all of your cameras that you have available. And for me, I have the Logitech C920 right here. I have the
Right.
Logitech C920 right up there, and I've used Manycam before, so I have a Manycam camera options set up, and then you can rotate through all of those. I'm on a Mac, so I would use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command N as in November, and then I can just rotate through them, or I can just click the little arrow and select the one I want. So when I select the OBS as my camera, then do I control everything from the OBS screen that you were just showing us a minute ago? So if I wanted to change scenes, I would just go to the OBS screen and click whatever scene that I needed.
Well, similar to what you were just explaining, in addition to being able to just click things, right? You can set up a hotkey on your keyboard to have just one press,
Oh,
right?
that's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so actually I can show that real quick here. Let me go ahead and minimize here. So if we're looking in here, one of the other things down in the bottom right corner is the settings. Now, for teachers that aren't familiar with this, when you open the settings, it's probably going to look a little intimidating because there's a lot of settings. There's a lot that you can do to set this up. And if you're not sure how to do all these settings, honestly, you don't even really need to worry about it too much because OBS will set a lot of it up for you when you first install it. It takes you through kind of a configuration the first time.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it'll ask you, okay, what are you trying to do? And you can tell
Uh-huh.
it, oh, I'm trying to not trying to live stream, like
Right.
um, so, but see, you can see down here on the bottom, on the left side of this window, it says hotkeys. So let's say that I wanted to set up a hotkey to start and stop that virtual camera, for instance. I could just, type in a letter on my keyboard or a number on my number pad or whatever, whatever, or even like you were talking about the command key. So you could hit
Mhm.
option V or option VS. I mean, it can be any combination you want, really.
Or your initial, whatever you like,
Yeah, yeah,
huh?
yeah. So, and then same thing. So here's that scene that was actually the face cam.
Mhm.
And if I want to switch to that scene, I could put in a little hotkey here. I'll just use one of the numbers here on the number pad. Let's use Alt 1. All right. So, and you can see it says Alt number 1.
Uh-huh.
And now if I click OK or apply, now let's say that I'm on that starting screen and I'm ready to go. I'm going to hit Alt 1 and it just flips me right over to that.
And there you
So
are.
yeah, just like you do in Zoom, like you were talking about. So you can
Mhm.
set up hotkeys and you get control over that, which is kind of nice.
That is
And
nice.
then it's a lot easier to use. You have
Oh,
those macros.
that's fantastic. I cannot wait to try this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Why I end up with so many scenes is you just get in there, you start having fun with it, and you start learning more about it. And there are a ton of tutorials on YouTube about how to use OBS because a lot of people on YouTube are using this for
Okay.
live streaming once again.
Yes.
So what I'm going to be doing in my course and my coaching program is I'm actually going to be trying to provide tutorials that are specific to music teachers because I had to sort through, I mean, we're talking literally hundreds of videos that you have to sort through to find maybe one thing that you're trying to do.
Mhm.
How do I make this scene, this way and crop it right for my piano? How do I get the piano keys to not be so bright,
Right. Oh, that is another issue with the
yeah, lighting, like
lighting. Yes.
yeah. So there's all these things that are just very specific to music teachers
Uh-huh.
that not many people talk about. There's a few on YouTube that you'll find, but you kind of have to sort through them. So what I'm going to be doing though is providing that for people that wanted to say, hey, I have one source I can go to. Ian's going to know what to do for this, and he's going to have the right information for me. So that's coming up down the pike as I'm building the course.
That sounds so fantastic. I literally wish I could shake your hand right now because I am so excited about this. So I am just really thrilled about everything that is continuing to grow and evolve with regards to teaching piano lessons, whether it's online or in person. It's just phenomenal, all the things that are available to us now that were not available to us even just a few years ago. I started teaching online in 2012 and I used just my laptop. Actually, it is the same laptop that I am using right now because it is still going strong all these years later. It is a 2012 MacBook Pro, which I phenomenal machine. So I'm just so excited about all the things that we can do to help our students learn better and to provide an even more engaging piano lesson experience for them and for me as a teacher and for all of us who are watching this interview to continue learning as well. And to me that is as exciting as any aspect of it because I am one of those people who just loves learning new things. And I just appreciate you sharing this with us today, Ian. It makes me so excited to go and try out OBS and see what's going on and how I can set up all my scenes and how I can use it even to live stream things sometimes. So, speaking of live stream, is OBS something that can be used to live stream, for example, into a Facebook group?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So that's something else that I need to be checking into as well. So, super exciting stuff.
I want to mention just one other thing, just based on what you said a second ago about using the 2012 computer. My computer is a PC, but I've been using it since 2015. So, I think everyone deals with this. Not everyone has the top of the line, newest, stuff.
Right.
And it's not because it's bad. It's just because, well, they're expensive for one,
Mhm.
but for two, I mean, if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't, like.
Exactly.
And so, but I want to mention one other thing that's a benefit of OBS, and I'll say this also, I think, in comparison to some of the other programs we mentioned, even Manycam, honestly, one of the reasons why I didn't end up using Manycam was just on my machine. It might be okay on a Mac, but on my machine, I found it was using quite a bit more resources on my CPU than I felt comfortable with. It felt like it was like my machine was heating up. It was just getting
Mhm.
too bogged down.
Mine was
So
really
even though this software is very, very powerful, one of the other things about OBS that's great is it's actually very minimally invasive. Like it doesn't, or not invasive, just
good.
it's just not going to lag down your processor. Now, anytime you're using video, so if you got 5 cameras running at once, yes, that's going to take up some memory, some hard drive, or some CPU.
Mhm.
But the program itself, like it runs pretty streamlined. It's not going to use a lot of CPU power, and it will work on my machine's 6 years old, and it's working
Mhm.
just fine.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's another good benefit to it. I think it's going to be really streamlined. It's not going to take up a lot of your CPU and RAM. Now, here's one thing I'll just show in the desktop view one last time is not only do I know it's running streamlined, but if you look down here in the very bottom corner of this window, you'll see that it's telling me how much the CPU actually is being used, which is right
Oh,
now it's below 10%, which is honestly amazing. That's not that low when I'm usually teaching because I have other programs running it.
mhm.
It'll usually run for me around like 20-25%, but that's still really good.
That's still really good. It is
Yeah.
for sure. I've used
So,
things that just eat up all of the resources of my computer, and then my
right.
fan kicks on to cool it down, and then it's just as loud. It sounds like
Yeah,
it's
then the
walking
microphone's
across the
picking up, and
elevator. It's just
it's it, it's a mess, right? So,
right.
and that's a huge benefit that people don't really think about. So, if you are trying to decide between those different programs, and it's not just a matter of, oh, does this one cost money and this one's free? It really isn't. For me, it wasn't. It was okay. I'm willing to spend the money if I feel like this is going to work for me long term.
Mm.
But to work for me long term, I don't. I need it to work all the time.
Right.
And OBS, even though it's free and it's open source, they do updates pretty often. And if there's a bug, it's reported pretty quickly. There's a
Mhm.
whole community of people out there reporting these things. And speaking of community, the OBS website also has lots and lots of plugins. So these are third-party developers bringing in little bits of software to add on that makes something easier to accomplish in OBS rather than trying to invent something yourself, you know.
Oh, that's interesting. That is, I can see how that would be really useful for piano teachers and for music teachers for sure.
Yeah.
This is just fantastic. I am so excited about this. I really can't wait to have a chunk of time one morning and in the near future and try to set this up and try it out with one of my students and see what happens and see how they respond to it.
Yeah.
I do have Classroom Maestro, so I'm really excited about doing an overhead view like that. So
Yeah. it's
it
it's
should be
it's
a
it
lot of fun.
is. And I did not like having to screen share Classroom Maestro and see, okay, I've got this window with the staff and I've got this window with the keyboard and it just doesn't really look right. Why can't I just put this keyboard right next to my keyboard? How do I do that? You know, this is how you do
Well, I
that.
really love
Because
how you had them right next to each other so they can see both your hand playing the chord or the scale or whatever it is, and then actually see the notes right above it lit
right,
up so they can make sure they're playing the correct notes. Because that is one thing that can be tricky is trying to demonstrate with an overhead camera and then if a student is like, oh, I can't see what you're doing for your fingers are in my way, so
right,
being
or they're too bright, like we
being
talked about, right?
have the lit up keyboard with the keys, that would make a big difference. I already have a student in mind that would make a big difference for.
Basically, what I'm going to be doing is offering, like I said, a coaching program, which will eventually also be a course,
Uh-huh.
and I'm calling it Teach More, Tech Less.
Ooh, I love it. That's perfect.
For now, yeah, it's just so I'm going to be doing kind of a workshop in July myself, and it'll be one of the first like real presentations on just it's just tech in general for teachers, really, or for online teachers specifically. But what I'm really wanting it to be is a resource so that people, like I said, they can have one place they know they can go and say, okay, if I want to find out how to set up, OBS, great. That's one thing, right? How
Right.
does OBS connect to my sound, like we talk about? And now we're going to set up a mixer. We're going to set up an audio interface. Okay, great. Now I've got that. Now, how do I not only hear myself and hear my student, but what if I want them to hear a specific program on my computer, not just the main sound. Like those questions come up in so many Facebook groups, and there's different ways to do it. But I think it would be great if teachers had a single resource where they could see by topic. Okay, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do this.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to build that.
Let me know when that is ready to go
I
because I
will.
will be there.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation all about OBS.
Thank
And
you.
and if other teachers are like me, then you have just created a whole bunch of excitement in the piano teaching community right this minute over this new fun thing that we can try. That's not only fun, but it's also going to be such a great tool to enhance what we're already doing with our students. So thank you so much, Ian.
You're welcome. Thank you.